Hey everyone. Okay, here's the deal. I recorded this video in the weekend and I didn't record the audio. So we are going to go through it. What we're doing is we're changing the front brake pads and the rotors on a Toyota Hilux 2005 4-litre petrol car. What we're going to do is, instead of me talking you through it as I do it, I'll just do voiceovers of the video. But before we get into the video, if you like this content and would like to see more on motorcycles, art and sex related stuff, don't forget to press the subscribe and press the bell to be notified of any updates. And don't forget, I've also got a website, merchandise shop and Patreon and Instagram. Let's not forget the Instagram. Why not sign up? Okay, what we have here is a Toyota Hilux V6 4-litre petrol ute. First things first, you want to jack it up, and the jack points are located, at least for the front, are located right here. See? Right on that bar right there. First thing you want to do before you fully jack it up is loosen the wheel nuts. When loosening the wheel nuts and tightening them, you should always do it in a crisscross pattern. And then once you've got them loosened, you can jack it up properly so the wheel's just slightly off the ground. Okay, what you can see from here is some rather offensive brake pads. Hopefully you can see it in this shot. What you see is there is no pad, it's just the metal part of it, and it's been wearing the disc down because you shouldn't have metal on metal in the first place. So that is why we need to change these. Okay, to do this, we're going to have to take the wire strut out. I don't know what it's actually called, but it keeps the two pins holding the brake pads in place. Once, just grab a screwdriver, that will allow you to undo the hook. From there you can take the two pins at the top and the bottom, and whatever that other plate is called, that will fall out once you take the pins out as well. Could be rusted and all sorts of nasties, but these are fairly good. They're just a little bit stuck, that's all. So a little gentle persuasion is called for. It's normal for the pads, one pad to be worn more than the other. It's a fixed caliper, so then very rarely would wear evenly. And sometimes just get some vice grip pliers and just wiggle the thing out. Don't do what I did when I was putting this back together and forget to put the shims in. So I had to redo it. Anyway, that's one down, one to go. And let's not forget that whatever you do on one side, you also have to do on the other side. Never do one side, you've got to do it in pairs. Okay, just a tip. What you should do before you try to undo the caliper is spread those caliper pistons, which is, I'm using a caliper spreader. I don't know what the actual technical term is, but that's what I do. Try to do them as evenly as possible, get them apart slightly, and then you can shove the old brake pad back in, and you can use that as a way to evenly spread them. Doing this, you want to take the cap off the brake fluid reservoir and keep an eye out on the level, as you don't really want it to be overflowing because it can damage your paintwork. Okay, there's two bolts to get the caliper off the system, and a third one if you include the brake hose. So the bolts are here there's one down the bottom. These bolts are going to be hard to get off. The torque value for them is 123 Newton meters. So it's going to be a lot of effort to move them. Remove the caliper. Don't let the caliper hang there. You need to get a hook and just hook it up somewhere. Try not to twist or kink the hose, otherwise you could damage the brake line, and you can also create air bubbles in the brake line, which is also another thing you don't want to do, otherwise you will have to end up bleeding the brakes. I got a little ahead of myself here without actually recording this happening, so it's as simple as what I'm just showing here, and it just, like I said, it pops and then it comes off just like that. So the new rotor just slots on, easy as anything. You don't need to do anything with this type. Just put it on, put the brake caliper back on, and do up bolts. The torque value for the caliper bolts is 123 Newton meters. It's important to make sure that the rotor is going to move freely within the space of the brake caliper. It's fairly tight fitting, really. And yes, that is Chooks. I'm actually down at my mum's place doing her brakes, and so she lives on a mind the random Chooks walking around in front of the camera. Okay, I did all this and I realised I didn't show you what I did with the brake pads. Now what you need to do is use some brake caliper grease on the outside of the brake pad, not the part that touches the rotor, which just helps to keep the brake noise down. Like I said, don't forget to put the shims back on, which is something I totally forgot to do on this particular one, and I had to take it apart and put the shims back on. Sometimes you may have to actually adjust the spread of the caliper pistons, make it a little bit further apart in order to get the brake pads back in. As you can see, the brake pads are actually in now. So then it's just a case of putting it all back together in reverse order that you took it apart. So those pins need to go back in, and they need to go in through the holes of the caliper and the shims and the brake pads. And then you can put the anti-vibration plate, that's what it's called, back in, and then you can put the wire that stops the pins from falling out back in. Once that's all done and it's all back together, you just need to put the tyre back on. For this particular model, the torque values for the wheel nuts is 100 Newton meters. Do it in a crisscross pattern, and once that's on, just give the wheel a good spin, pump the brake a few times to make sure it's put the caliper pistons into position, and you got pressure back on the brake, and give it a test. Right, before we do my normal outro, coming up will be a brake pad change on my Honda Shadow VT750. So stay tuned for that one. It'll be similar to what we just done, but it's on a motorcycle instead, so it's different. Kind of, not really. So now, if you like this content and would like to see more on motorcycles, art and sex related stuff, don't forget to press the subscribe and press the bell to be notified of any updates. So I'll see you next time. Bye.